Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be covering the combat, and this also includes all of the animations in this series. So before we get started, I'd like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support. Now when it comes to the combat, just like in Dark Souls, I'm going to have the ability to basically switch stances so that you can use either shield, sword, or you can use just the sword. I am using two different animation packs for this. Please feel free to, use your own, use something else. If you're not interested in the double stance, then all you have to do is really create one weapon at this point. So let's start off with creating a new folder. We'll call this O4 Combat. There we go. New folder, and we'll call this Knight, as this is going to be the starting, the starting weapon for the Knight class, which is the class we're focusing on right now. And we're going to start off by creating, some of the locomotions. In order to save some time of me just dragging in animations, I'm going to show you on screen exactly which animations I'll be using, and the goal here is to already set up the animations for both locomotions of both the different stances. Cool. So now that we have those done, we have a set of locomotions here, and these clips basically, so the switch, if you are using the same exact animation packs I will have these animations as they were custom made. I'll have these animations in the description so you can just use them yourself. Make sure to use the avatar mask of upper body. Many of the game creator examples have this avatar mask, and just put it in, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So you'll have the switch animation as well. Now if you are using your own animations and they are different, keep in mind that's completely fine. Honestly, doesn't matter what animations you're using, but I do think these fit the slower pace of the Souls games pretty well. Then next up, what we're going to do is we're going to be starting with creating these weapons. So melee, and then we're going to do a melee weapon, and the first one is going to be sword 01, and this is going to be the first sword. As you might guess, this needs that locomotion as well, so we'll just drag that in. We will need a shield as well, so let's create that too. There we go. So we'll just call this shield 01. Perfect. And we'll drag those. We'll drag that shield into the first sword as well. Now I'm not going to create sword 2 yet, as a lot of the things will be similar. So we'll simply be duplicating the first sword, once done. Now we do need a couple of prefabs here, and we're using melee upgrade, so that means we can use multiple prefabs. I'm going to use 3, so we'll have the sword prefab, we'll have one of the feet prefab, and we'll have one for shield. Now I am going to look up the example sword weapon, simply because it's just faster. There we go. Duplicate that and just drag it into our folder. Clear the search, and there we go. Now I'm going to rename this to sword 01. Perfect. So we can drag that in, and let's duplicate it again. Now I'll rename this to kick, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually open up this one. In the kick, we can remove the model, and we're going to change the positioning to just all 0, and we'll change it to right foot. Perfect. I'm going to turn off the slashes as well, the weapon trails. Personally, I don't think they're fitting for this type of game. That's up to you. You don't need to do that. You can just, keep them. I'm also going to switch to a sphere. And yeah, that's it. Then this kick, I'm going to duplicate that. And we'll name this shield. That will be for one of the shield attacks. And then we can just drag these in. So kick and shield. Now we do need to make sure the shield is attached to the left hand, and the sword, I think by default, is already right hand. So we're good there. Perfect. So now we basically have three prefabs we can use, in order to use the melee attacks. So that's pretty useful. I'm not going to name the weapons or the description. There's just no point, as we're not seeing this information anywhere. So I'm not going to do any of that. When it comes to the sound effects, please drag in the ones you want to use. I'm not going to be focusing too much on sounds because, sound clips that, you just need to drag them in. So we'll need a couple of melee clips, obviously. And when I say a couple, we'll need a lot of them. But we're going to be, focusing on a couple here. So first things first, let's create the very first one. Melee clip, and this will be sword 1A. There we go. And the affected bone, we need to select that, is going to be right hand. So most of these will all be right hands. There will not be a lot of variation there. We'll just have one kick, and we'll have one shield bash as well. So those will be slightly different. And when it comes to which clips we're going to use, I looked up a lot of the clips that I do think are fitting. So if you are using the same, the same animation packs, you can just follow along with that. If you're using different animation packs, what we're doing here first is simply creating, the normal combo of, up to AAA. So just, find a good combo that fits if you are using different packs. So I'll be using sword attack R. There we go. So this is going to be the first one I am using, and we can actually drag in the character just to show you what it looks like. You can preview, and basically, it's going to be this attack. Now, when it comes to the active area, that's this green part. So this is the green part where it's actually active. And for several of these animations, you really need to change that. For this one, however, it's perfectly fine. This is actually automatically picks up a pretty good active area. I'm fine with that. Then on execute, we do need to drain a stat. So let's do that as well. So change attribute, stamina, subtract, and I'm going to be draining 10 stamina per attack. I think that's fairly reasonable in terms of drainage. Then when it comes to defense and poise damage, I am choosing to actually do 0 poise damage and 0 defense damage. That is my choice, and I'll explain why as well. So basically what I want to do is just like in Dark Souls 3, which I recently played, is that basically if someone is using a shield and you want to break that shield, you'll do the kick in order to break his shield stance. So that's what we're using the kick for. And in order to do that, we'll be using defense and poise damage. So that means that for normal attacks, we won't be doing those. So no defense damage, no poise damage. That makes it so that the kick is really, the shield breaker, if you will. And that's it. I'm not changing anything else here. Again, if you're using different animations, play around with transition times if necessary. But this is pretty fine. So yeah, off to a good start. Then I'm going to duplicate that. Make sure to duplicate it here with this button, and don't duplicate it by just pressing Ctrl D for melee clips. doesn't work well. There we go. So this will be AA. And here I am using a slightly different clip, so that will be RL, sword attacks RL is going to be AA. Make sure to extract root motion. Not sure if I did that on the first one. No, I didn't. Cool. Let's make sure that it's actually matches here when it comes to the active area. So yeah, seems like it should start here. So I'm going to drag that back a bit. That's better. And then I can stop here. So slightly different. Cool. And that's it. This one is done. It's also right hand, so nothing we need to change here. Then we're going to press duplicate again. Let's change this to AAA. Perfect. So this is going to be the AAA clip, and that will be RLL, which I think is a pretty good follow-up. Again, these are just the animations I chose, so you can move or mess around with that. Let's do a preview here and activates here. It's might be a tiny bit early, but that's actually fine. Yeah, I'm actually fine with this. Cool. So I'm going to keep it like that as well. Awesome. So we've done those. So we have A, AA, and AAA. Then what we need to do next is that basically that shield break I spoke about. So we're going to do the kick, and it doesn't really matter which one you take, just duplicate one of them. And for the kick, I'm literally going to rename it to kick as well. So sword 1 kick. And luckily enough, it's actually called kick as well. And it's sword kick. There we go. And perfect. Now we're going to subtract that as well. And when we preview this one, that's the kick. And yeah, I'm fine with this active area. That's cool. And awesome. Now, when it comes to the kick, if you want to change how much stamina that subtracts, you can do so. That's up to you. I think leaving it at the same 10 is, completely fine with me. It's all about tactics. And what we do need to change, however, is defense and poise damage. So I'm going to do 10 and 10. So all of these are still interruptible, vulnerable, and steady. So all of that remains exactly the same. So nothing changes here. We just need to change affected bone to right foot, because it's a right foot attack in my case. And if you are using different animation packs, in your case it might be left foot if you're using something else. And yeah, pretty cool. Now what we're going to do as well is a counter attack, and that will be a bit interesting to set up later on. But for now we just need to find the fitting animation. So I'm going to duplicate this yet again, and I'm simply going to rename this to counter, sword 1 counter. There we go. And for the counter attack, I'm going to use that shield bash I mentioned before. So it's also literally called shield bash. I think it was called shield bash, wasn't it? If I look up counter, so the spelling of shield was wrongly done in that pack. So there we go. So counter shield bash. We're going to do left hand here. Also quite important. Extract that with motion. Did I do that with the kick? Just double check. There we go. I did. And when it comes to this one, as you can see, this is where the activation is quite wrong. So it needs to activate here, and it's because it's tracking the right hand by default. That's where the right hand is moving. But the shield is only really activating around here. So we need to change that. And yeah, it's a bit of a short area, so we'll give it a bit of leniency. And there we go. So that's the active area of the counter. Pretty cool. Now the counter is not going to do any, well, we can actually have the counter do defense and poise damage as well. That's actually not a bad idea. Would be cool for a shield break. So the counter in my case is going to be uninterruptible and invincible. So we can actually really perform counters. Otherwise, you can't properly perform counters. You don't have to do invincible if you don't like that. You still want to be vulnerable during counters. Just switch that back. I always find it annoying because it just kind of breaks the game flow. You're supposed to be rewarded for doing a counter attack. That's my opinion. So yeah, it's cool. Then I'm adding something else because it's a counter attack and it's a bit more impressive. I'm going to do it on hit, and on the invoker I'm going to subtract some extra damage. And we are using the global variable here for player damage strength. So basically we'll be doing double damage. So we're doing the normal damage, which we'll set up later, and we're also doing the additional damage here. So basically double damage. And yeah, that's it for the counter attack. And we need to drag that in, all of that in the shield. So we need a couple of combos. So first off, we'll do the kick, and that actually has a condition. I'm going to do input forward. That's how it is in Dark Souls as well. So I'm just going to use that. Perfect. Then we switch this to none, and we're going to add A. Add another A. Add another A. And then we need to add the counter. And I'm going to remove all of these, and I'll put the counter on C for counter. There we go. And we'll drag that in here. Now C is not something we'll manually input, and I'll show you in a bit how we're going to activate that. As it's a tiny bit of a workaround, but actually works perfectly well. So pretty cool stuff. So yeah, no conditions there. So all good. And there we go. Now we need the hit reactions. We could actually use the counter after perfect block. I'm going to give this a try. No, none, because we still need to input it. So never mind. Cool. We'll add the hit reactions. Now, that's one of the downsides of these packs. When it comes to hit reactions, there's not a lot of options in the animation packs I'm using. So I'll just be using the one for everything. If you're going to do a complete game out of it, I might look around for some other hit reactions that do cover a bit more here. And I'm not so much talking about airborne, but at least also the sides. That would have been pretty cool to cover as well. Would have been pretty nice. So for the hit reactions, we can just create a new clip here. Don't need to duplicate, as we won't be using any of it. So there's no affected bones. So this will be hit. Perfect. Now I'm not doing a sword 1 here, as I'll just be using the same hit reaction for both. There's no point in not doing that. We can turn off is attack as well. As it's a hit reaction, so we'll be vulnerable either way. So yeah, that's quite important. So again, I'm looking up this one, sword, and it was hit and then R2. Again, you can pick up whatever you'd like when it comes to the hit reactions. I just picked this one It's not really important which one it is, as long as it's not too long. Something to keep in mind, because if it's too long, it's going to become quite annoying. Now, when it comes to the states, so interruptible, it should be interruptible. Otherwise, it will mess up your gameplay flow. Should be vulnerable as well, and posture stagger. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing else to do here. I'm going to duplicate this one, and we'll do hit reaction, and we'll call it hit reaction knockback. There we go. And this is going to be the the stagger, basically the stagger once poise is completely depleted. And for the knockback one, I'm going to do knockdown. Front one, and there we go. So I'm going to use that one. I think that's pretty cool. Again, you don't have to do that. You can, pick whatever you want. And then when it comes to this one, I'm going to do uninterruptible. When it comes to this knockback reaction, he's actually falling down. Looks really cool. I don't want to be able to interrupt that mid-air. Again, that is a choice. You can still do that. However, I am leaving on vulnerable. So I still want to be able to do damage while he's falling down. But I don't want to break up the animation. So that's why I'm doing uninterruptible. So it's, again, a bit of a choice here. But personally, I do think that is a slightly better option. Makes it look a bit better. So cool. Let's fill up all of these. And yeah, it's a bit annoying that you have to fill all of these, especially if they're all the same. But you have to. So you can't just fill up one. It has to be all of them. Now, for this type of game, air would not have been all that interesting anyway, but it would have been nice to have different interactions for upper, lower, mid-body, back. Would have been cool. So yeah, kind of a shame that there's not a bit more variety in these. Otherwise, absolutely amazing packs. The animations are honestly top-notch, real quality stuff. Cool. So yeah, that's it for the first sword. And the important thing here when it comes to these animations is that we also have the shield part. And the reason I'm saying that it's also really important when it comes to the shield is because the shield is going to be our defense. So we need some the counter, for example, all need to be there. However, when we switch stance to sword 2, we won't have the ability to block. We're doing more damage. It's a more attacking stance, but we won't have a shield. So even though we're calling this shield 1, there's not going to be a second one. Just to keep that in mind. Now, when it comes to shield, the first shield, let's switch this to left hand. And that's simply for the prefab to be attached to. And the shield I'm attaching are actually not from Infinity PBR. I'm actually attaching the meshes that come with this pack. I actually really like them. I think they look really cool. So that's why I'm using these. They're actually really nice. Again, completely personal choice. But yeah, I'm using this shield and I'm using this sword as well. I personally just really like the way they look. So let's drag this in. So for a shield, I'm going to lock this. So that's the one I'm using. Again, if you want to use different models, go ahead. Just use whatever makes you happy. This is all a personal preference anyway. So we're going to drag in that shield. Now, if you are using the exact same one, you can follow along with the position offset. As obviously I've done this before. And these values will place it in the hand pretty well. Minus 15.6. There we go. So yeah, this is a pretty good placement. Will work pretty well with the character model. Will look really nice. Now we do need a state as well, and that's where things become slightly interesting when it comes to the state. So we do still need to create that. And in order to do that, we have to do some trickery, as there's not a animation that is like completely ready from the start. But with a small tweak, without having to do any proper editing, we can still have a pretty good defense state. So we'll set that up in a bit. We do need some clips here as well. So we need a perfect block clip, hit reactions, again, only using the one here, and perfect block reactions as well. And we'll use the same one for both. So let's start up with setting those up. And yeah, also for the perfect block, we'll need to do some small editing as well. So a couple of small tricks here. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to basically create some additional animations out of the existing ones without doing all that much really. So when it comes to the shield one, we'll have to look around because I can't remember which one it was. So these are all attacks. Yeah, so this is the one I'll be using, so Rise Weapons. So let's unlock this and let's preview this. So when it comes to Rise Weapons, as you can see, we're rising weapons. Now we don't want that on repeat, obviously, because it will look, it will look quite horrible. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to duplicate this one. There we go. We're going to so we have our duplicate here. It's quite important. We're going to take the rise and go to animation, look up rise weapons, and then when we're here, there we go. This is where we basically want to cap it. So that way, there's a small movement still in the animation, which obviously, we want to have. So just, a bit of an animation, but that's pretty much it. So we'll need to cap it there. So about this point, there we go. And then basically, it's just going to be that. And yeah, that's it. So going to hit apply here. There we go. And yeah, we have this slightly customized one. Let me collapse all of the others. There we go. And we're going to do the same with idle. Now for idle, the reason we want to have idle as well is actually going to be for our perfect block, just so we have 1-2 frames. It's not going to do much else. So for idle, I'm pretty sure that's going to be in the very first one here. Yeah, there we go. So going to duplicate that as well. Perfect. So we have our duplicated idle here. And let's grab this one, and where we have idle, there we go. So we have idle here. And what we're going to do with idle is basically we're just going to cap the very first, so the very beginning of the animation. Make sure to do that with the duplicate we created, by the way, and that's it. Going to hit apply as well. Cool. So yeah, there we have those two additional animations. So let's start off with our shield. So we need a new locomotion here. So characters, and we need a simple state. And I'm going to lock this because it will be a bit more difficult to find the right one, so we need to this rise one, rise weapons, and drag that in. No enter clip, no anything else, just a really simple one. And yeah, we're done. Now when it comes to the rise, we also do need to make sure, we can unlock it now. We do need to make sure that, yeah, no, that's it actually, we're done. Cool. So yeah, that's it for the rise part. We have that covered. So we have our state simple. Let's rename this to shield 01. Oh, we already have a shield 01 name. So shield 01 locomotion. There we go. And we can drag that in. Now when it comes to defend mask, obviously we need to use the upper body again. Just to make sure, it's not going to mask our legs or anything like that. We don't need to change anything here. That's up to you. Obviously, you can change these values as much as you want, but I'm not going to do that. And when it comes to the perfect block clips, those are going to be our first ones. And for these, I am going to simply duplicate our hit reaction. Let's get rid of this warning. So I'll duplicate hit reaction, as none of these will be attacks, and it's just the easiest way to do it. So perfect block. Again, going to lock that because we need to make sure we're picking the right one here. Sword idle, and that is from the modified one, so that's the short clip basically. When you do is attack, you'll see how incredibly short it is as well. So it's incredibly short. We even have transition time, so basically we're not going to see much of it, and that is kind of the point. Now, the most important part is on execute. We're going to do input melee, and we're going to be executing our C attack. And that's our counter basically. Now, the reason we can't make this straight away, our counter straight away, is because if we turn this on to a attack, it won't actually do anything because it's in the shield state. So it won't actually do any damage. So that's why we need to do it like this. So basically, this plays for a fraction of a second, not even, and then it automatically executes C, and that's what we really want. So, a bit of a workaround, but it works perfect. You can't even notice it. So yeah, that's our perfect block. We can go here. We can unlock this again. So now we need a block hit as well. And yeah, I'm just going to duplicate this one again. So we have hit reaction. We need a block hit reaction. Again, I already know which clip I'm going to use for this, and you can use whatever you want. Obviously, so sword, block, and I'm going to do right shield. There we go. Extract root motion. And yeah, the important part here when it comes to block hit is, these stats. I'm going to do uninterruptible and invincible on these. And again, the reason I do this and steady is because I want to use the Dark Souls mechanic where you really need to use that kick to basically break his block. So that's the reason I'm doing that. If you're not interested in any of that, just leave it to the defaults. That's again, that's up to you. But basically, while he's using his shield, unless we use our kick, we can smash. It won't have any impact whatsoever. So I thought it was pretty cool. It's it's different. It's not the usual thing. So I wanted to replicate that. I thought it was pretty cool. Then let's duplicate this one, and we need that perfect block reaction as well. And yeah, for this, I did think it was a bit difficult to find a good clip in what we have here. So I'm going to use sword hit. and I chose to just use L1 here, and again, that's up to you. It doesn't really matter. Now, I did think it was important to put this back to interruptible and vulnerable, as I would be able, I would like to have a chain after this, so I thought it was pretty nice. So yeah, that's it when it comes to all of the shield animations. So we're done there as well. Let's perfect block reaction. There we go. It would be nice to have a bit more of an impressive one for the counter, but I didn't really find those. I also thought it was a bit exaggerated to do anything else. So, we're gonna leave it, leave it at that. So that will be the perfect block reaction. Cool. So let's go to a shield here, and let's drag all of these in. So we have perfect block clip, perfect block reaction. There we go. And we need to do block hit reaction. And yeah, that's it. So pretty awesome. Shield all set up as well. And that leaves us pretty much done. The only thing we need to do is the second sword. Now, luckily we're going to save some time here, because basically we just need to duplicate this one, rename it to sword 2. And the reason we can duplicate this one without any issues is simply because there's no actions attached to this, so it won't duplicate any actions. Let's make sure to remove the shield though. There's no blocking with this weapon. And let's drag in that sword 02 locomotion. Also going to remove the counter, because as there is no blocking, there's no counter. I'm keeping kick of the first one. The animations match each other incredibly well, same creator. So it looks, really smooth just to have the same kick. But if you want a different kick animation, go ahead, enjoy yourself. So let's start off with duplicating this one. Rename it sword 02. And then A. There we go. And yeah, as you might have guessed, we'll obviously need some new animations for sword 02. And, that's going to be rather short. There's not that many that I really found all that interesting. So it's just going to be a 2-time combo. So just A and double A. But you can expand this as much as you want. It's completely up to you. So let's look up that clip. So this will be long, and then attack, and we need it L2. There we go. Extract root motion. Pretty cool stuff. Now, when it comes to the stamina, I'm choosing to subtract 15. And I do want this to do double damage as well. So invoker. We'll do that a different way, actually. We're going to do a different technique for that. So let's just keep it to this. So just stamina, and we'll do, 15. Yeah, and that's it. Then we can duplicate this clip. We'll rename it to AA. And for this one, I'm going to use L3. So quite simple. Also extract root motion. Keep all of this the same. I would like to preview actually just to, yeah, okay. I should have done that for the first one as well. So let's do that. So this is the active part. Okay. Cool. We can activate it a tiny bit sooner. That's okay. So yeah, when it comes to these, weird, where there's an actual movement in front, we need to make sure to double check all of these things, because, yeah, same here. So it should activate around here. And there we go. Something like that. That's fine. Cool. Now, one of the more interesting things here is we are going to have another attack here, and that will be when basically normally you'd use the block button. For this one, we'll have a more, do some additional damage, which is going to be pretty cool. So duplicate, and we'll call this sword 2, and then just B. And this is going to be the alternate, basically, that does more damage when we use the block button. So, we're giving up our shields, but we have an additional attack, which is, kind of cool. I'm doing 30 stamina, which is quite a lot. But yeah, I think that's fine. We need a new animation for that as well, of course. And I'll use this one. So Long's Trust. Let's make sure that wow, okay, that's actually pretty good. And yeah, as you can see, it's also a different type of attack because it actually moves us forward, and it's pretty cool. Now, when it comes to this type of attack, it's completely up to you, but you can, for example, have it do defense and poise damage as well, so make it work against shields. I think that's pretty cool, but you don't have to do that. But basically, it gives them the option to use 2 types of attacks to, break shields and etc. Given that it also costs 30 stamina to use it, I think it's a pretty cool trade-off. It does more damage, but it costs you more stamina. So yeah, pretty cool. But that's up to you. You don't have to do that. If you only want to keep the block as a shield breaker, you can just keep the block as a shield breaker. Awesome. Did we do this correctly? I'm not sure. Cool. So that's it for sword 2. So time to replace some of these clips. So sword 2, we're going to have sword 2A, sword 2AA, and we'll have sword 2B. Cool. And yeah, we still had the different ones here. Just wanted to double check. So yeah, now basically we have the 2 swords, and the sword will basically be the same sword. I think that is pretty important to notice. So it's going to be the same sword, but it will basically allow us to switch stances by having 2 different melee weapons for it. Now, when it comes to the actual prefab, I'm going to place a sword here as well. Keep in mind that this is only temporary until we get to the stage where we're going to set up inventory. Once we set up inventory, we're going to do the whole, attaching models a different way, which will make it, a lot more functional, but also look a lot better. But, for now, we do want to see something. So we're going to be attaching a sword here as well. So by default, we have this, melee weapon from Game Creator, which is cool. And let's go to here, models, sword. I'm going to attach that. We'll be using this one. When it comes to placement, I think it's simply this, and I thought it was pretty much it. Pretty good. We can remove this one. There we go. And yeah, we can reduce the hitbox a bit because it is a bit too big. You don't want it to perfectly fit because otherwise you're gonna have kind of a difficult time making sure those actually connect to each other. But yeah, you don't want it to be too big either, because then basically, you can hit them from a mile away, which is also would be a bit exaggerated. So yeah, I think about this is fine. Something like this. I think this is fine. So yeah, it's still big, and I know that, so you can make that smaller if you want to. That's up to you, but I think it's fine. Again, no weapon trail here. I don't think it fits the setting. That is personal, of course, but I don't think it fits the setting. Cool. So we have everything here. Now, when it comes to the placement of this sword, obviously that's also quite an important thing, because you need to make sure it's placed well in the hand. So in that sense, I did personally try this out. So I'll be using a couple of settings, and you can follow along if you're using the same model. If you are using a different model, these might be slightly different settings. But the way you do this, if you are using something else, is basically you put it into, you put it in play mode, then, place it correctly in the hand, copy the position rotation, and just, copy it on this prefab, but just, pasting the values, basically. So paste component values. So yeah, I'm just going to save you some time if you are using the same one, because, I already tried this out. Cool. And there we go. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's hit save. And yeah, that's it for all of the everything we need to enter in terms of the clips, the values. What we'll need to do next is obviously going to be quite important. It's actually creating all of our actions, conditions, triggers, in order to make sure all of this actually works. It's actually useful. So yeah, that will be quite important. We'll also need to do some combat maneuvers. So basically have some targeting in there, etc. Going to be quite fun to do as well. Now, in order to set up our mechanics, we will need some new variables as well. So we're going to be adding 2 global variables. So target, and this is going to be game object, and NPC, because it's affecting an NPC, and then target focused, and that's going to be a game object as well. So game object, and that's going to be NPC as well. So we'll have 2 new global variables, and these will basically come in handy for our targeting system. So our targeting system is going to allow for a couple of things. It's going to be quite cool. So first off, let's create a new trigger. So game creator trigger. Let's call this targeting. There we go. And we can remove the sphere collider. There we go. And this is going to be an on-start trigger, so we're good there. And we basically need a just a simple action here. There we go. And we can call this actions gather, because that's what it's going to do. It's going to be gathering some information. And then we'll use tag. So nearest with tag is going to be stored in target. An area radius of 10. I'm pretty good with that. Again, keep in mind that is that is optional. You can change this radius to whatever you want. I think 10 is far enough. And we'll use the enemy tag. And that's it. So if you don't have the enemy tag yet, because it wasn't set up yet, just go here, add tag, add a little plus, and then type in enemy. So we're good there, and I didn't save this. So there we go. Then the next step when it comes to targeting is we need a new trigger. So trigger. And we're doing the same as Dark Souls 3 here. So we're going to use, going to do mouse down, and we'll have to use the middle mouse. I actually do like that as well. It's actually a pretty good button to use that. So we'll do middle mouse, and we'll need some conditions. And we'll do 2 sets of conditions here. So the first conditions are going to be regarding the target. So we'll add a clause here, and that will be focused. So player is not focused yet. Then we're going to do create, then set, we just use focus. Yeah, there we go. So set target, and the target is going to be on that global variable, which is target. Then we're going to do assign game object. There we go. So we're going to assign target focused, and we're going to grab that from our global variable, which is target. Then we're going to weight 0.01. There we go. And we'll take this same action again, and we can add another 0. It can be really, really fast here. And we'll focus on this one. There we go. So this way, we're basically focused straight away. This little extra step is just to remove that small delay. It's not 100% necessary, but it does help just to remove that small delay there. Then we'll do another clause. There we go. The condition is going to be the opposite. So if we are focused, what is going to happen then? Then we'll create some actions. So basically, we're going to release our target. We need to look up this one again. So variable game object, and target focused is going to be empty, and that's it. So we're going to be clearing that global variable. Then the next conditions are going to be repositioning the same way Dark Souls does it as well. So basically, if there's no one to focus on, pressing that middle mouse button is going to basically reposition our camera motor, which I thought was pretty cool. So yeah, we'll do that as well. We'll need a custom action for this. So it's in the description. If you need to install that still. So we'll do focus. So it's called camera refocus. In this sense, it's going to be our camera motor. So we need to select that camera motor, drag it in, and change this to 0.01. Then add a weight of 0.01, which is really fast. But it's still smooth enough for it not to give you basically a headache. And then we'll copy this in again, and we'll toggle this off. So that also means that by default, the camera motor auto position from behind, just like in Dark Souls, needs to be turned off if you are using this mechanic. If you're not using that mechanic, you can completely remove the refocus if you want to, or set it back to the default values you have set here. But basically, so these will be conditions refocus. And we can actually give that a try now, just to see if that actually works. So let's hit play. Right now, there won't be anything to actually focus on. So technically, that condition should be working fine. And, as you can see, it's not repositioning. I press the middle mouse button once, and it's repositioning. And yeah, pretty cool. Awesome. So yeah, those will be the steps we'll need to take. So pretty simple here. Now the reason I have this condition, and this is optional, I actually chose to remove it later, but you can choose to do that. That this only works if there's if you're not focused, for example. That's up to you. You can add that condition, yes or no. Otherwise, it won't play a condition just straight to it, and that's fine as well. So this will be our targeting. So obviously, really important system. As you can see, it's actually fairly simple, which is pretty cool. Then when it comes to the player, we'll We'll need to change some things there as well, but we can do that in a bit. So next up, let's actually focus on all of our combat mechanics, which is going to be a lot more interesting. So we'll add a trigger, so game creator trigger, and this will be combat. So let's rename that to combat. Again, we can just remove that sphere collider. And this is where we're going to have all of our combat triggers. So there's going to be several of them. So let's start off with the on start one, which is going to be our condition here. And for our on start condition, we're going to be drawing. So we can call these conditions draw. And first things first, when it comes to those conditions, is we need to set up the class. So in the previous video, we had the class creation. So right now, I will be focusing on just knight, because that's all we have. So string, if it's knight, then we're going to be drawing this weapon. So draw, and then we can drag in sword 1, and there we go. So that's the one we're drawing. We're never drawing sword 2 as on start, because it's again, it's just switching stances pretty much. So that's what we're going to keep. So sword 1 is going to be drawn if the class is knight, and then once you create multiple classes, you just copy this. If class is mercenary, we'll be drawing a different melee weapon, for example. So yeah, pretty simple, but obviously quite important. Let's make sure it also works. So on start, and it's not going to work because we need something on the player, of course, which is going to be our melee component. So character melee, there we go. And yeah, there we have it. So this is our default stance. We can't really do anything else yet. Now, if your feet are way above the ground, that's going to be because of the elevation. So I chose to use a foot elevate minus 0.12. It was pretty good. 0.11 might be slightly better. Not really sure. It's pretty good. So basically, we're not really floating that much. It's pretty good. So yeah, keep it at 12 and you're not floating at all, pretty much. Cool. So yeah, works pretty well. Now, as you can see, this animation pack by default, when you're walking, and we're running, because we already set up running. That's what the animations look like. So, by default, we're in quite a defensive mode, which obviously is slightly different than Dark Souls, something to keep in mind, but it does kind of make sense. But again, that's just up to the animation pack, so that's up to you. Cool. So yeah, we have drawing now, so let's add the next trigger. And that's going to be the simple one. So on mouse down, left mouse, we again need some conditions here. And we can call these conditions primary, meaning this is the primary form of attack. Depending on which weapon we're using, the shield button is really going to be, using our shield to block, or, a second attack. So let's start off with our clauses here. So stamina, so attribute, of course. So attribute of the player stamina is greater to 10. Then we're using the other custom action from the game creator hub, wielding. So if the player is wielding sword 1, then we need at least 10 stamina and we need we need to have sword 1 equipped, which is the default stance. Then we're just going to input melee attack A. Now in this case we can actually duplicate the clause, which will keep the same set of actions, but the actions will always be the same, so that's completely fine. All we need to do here is change this to 15 and drag in that sword 2. So basically for sword 2 we'll need at least 15 because that's where we're consuming, so that means it should always also be a requirement. But the action is the same, we're just inputting melee A. So pretty cool. Then we're going to do another condition and another trigger. So this will be for mouse down and then the right mouse button. Then let's drag in some conditions here. So secondary. As you might have guessed, we'll be using a lot of the same conditions here, so we can just copy this over. It's just faster. So if we have sword 1 equipped, this is going to basically just start blocking. So melee blocking is going to block because the first sword has a shield. And then the second clause, so we can copy this over as well. Just drag in sword 2. Now this won't be the same set of actions here. This will be a different set of actions. So for this one, we also need that stamina condition we had here. So we can copy that over. I think we were using 30 stamina. There we go. So 30 stamina at least with sword 2, and then we'll do input melee attack, and that was B with sword 2. So that's pretty cool. Slightly different from what a lot of games do. So depending on what you have, you can either block yes or no. So and then otherwise it's an alternate action. So yeah, cool stuff. Then what we need to do now is basically add a trigger for that block. So basically mouse up, the right mouse again. And this, in this case, I'm going to do conditions as well, just to be on the safe side. It's not completely necessary, but just prefer to be safe. So we can add stop here, and basically if we have sword 1 equipped, then we'll stop blocking. So copy that over as well, and we'll just stop blocking. Now I do this simply as a safeguard, as I want to make sure that we're not messing with any other system. So just to keep it on the safe side. Cool. So yeah, pretty simple in this case. Now, as you might imagine, if you are dual wielding, for example, with the mercenary class, then you'll be using a secondary as well, which would be secondary weapon, and you can just actually use B of the same weapon to just input different melee attacks. So yeah, pretty simple stuff. Then the coolest thing is going to be another trigger, and I'm using the same input here as Dark Souls on PC, Dark Souls 3 on PC, which is going to be F. So on key down F, we'll be able to swap stances. Let's go there. We'll also do conditions here, and these will be conditions. Swap stance. Now the reason we need conditions is, for some you might not have multiple stances. So if you're dual wielding, not sure there is a alternate stance as far as I'm aware. But yeah, swap stance. So we have for this we have the condition that is basically, if sword 1, so we can just copy that over again. So if sword 1 is equipped, then we're going to draw sword 2. There we go. Now I am choosing to block player input for a short while during this, and that is optional, but I'm choosing to do that, so it's controllable. Wait, so that custom swap animation takes about 0.7 seconds, and then paste this in again, then he's controllable. It's not necessary. I choose to do that because I do think it adds a bit to the the slow pace of a Souls game. But again, there's no need to do that if you don't want to. And then the second clause is obviously going to be the opposite. So if we have sword 2 equipped, then we're going to draw sword 1, controllable. Pretty much the same thing. There we go. So yeah, let's put this to the test. We have most of our actions here now. So let's have a look. So I'm going to do the swap first. There we go. Now, as you can see, there is a short while where it looks odd, and we're going to fix that as well with a really easy fix. Let's do that first before we go into further testing. So we're going to do another unstart action with our unstart trigger. State. For some reason, dragging that on the player didn't work for me, so I'm going to drag this in. There we go. So the default state of the player is always going to be that sword 0-1 locomotion, and there we go. And now when we swap, yeah, as you can see, he's basically putting it on his back. I tried to make that animation similar to Souls. The weapon actually disappearing for a while, that's going to be solved for once we switch to using inventory for the actual model. So it's going to look really smooth. It's going to look really cool. The shield will actually be on his back as well, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, it's going to be really cool. We have our melee attacks as well, which is cool. We're blocking. Pretty nice. And then when we switch, we have some different animations. And we're out of stamina. I think that's why this one is not working. Let's check that player. Stats, no. Stamina should be fine. So let's have a look. This second one is not working. So combat, secondary, mouse down right, condition secondary. It's not doing anything, so that's interesting. This was okay, cool. Let's change that to B. Sorry about that. We'll try that again. Swap, and now we're doing that trust. So yeah, really cool. Yeah, pretty awesome stuff. Cool. So yeah, really cool stuff. It looks really nice. Then next up, what we need to do is a small change to the way we were using dash before. So I set up dash before in movement, and basically it was just an action. So what we'll need to do here is basically add a condition, rename that condition to conditions dash, make the actions part of it, but add a little clause, that requires us to also drain some stamina. Is greater or equal to 10. So yeah, we need those conditions because otherwise, it would be a bit weird. Not sure if we had the subtract. In case you didn't have that, make sure to add the subtract here. I'm not sure if I did that correctly last time. Then we're also adding some of the dodge animations from this pack. So I'm using Longsword Animset Pro, and we basically have these dodge animations that you simply just drag in. And I'm also adding a wait of 1.5 seconds. Now the reason for that is because these dash animations, well, dodge, not so much dash, they take up 1.5 seconds. And let me show you. So I'm going to hit play here, and I'm going to remove that 1.5 wait, so just to have it as the default dash. So right now, if I press the dash button, that's it. That's that's dash. Cool. Once we're focused, we can see all of the going to the side and front and left, etc. If you don't add that 1.5 wait, so right now I can, I keep pressing the button, but I have to wait until it's over, until I can do it again. If I remove this wait, you basically get this effect, and at some point it will stop because your stamina is out, but it just looks ridiculous, obviously, so you can just spam it. So that's why we need that 1.5 wait and subtract that stamina. So a couple of small changes to the default dash we had set up. I'm also changing impulse to 3 and drag to 2, duration to 0.1. You might want to mess around with that a bit if you think that's not enough. You want to have a bit more movement. I actually tried this out, obviously, as this is pre-recorded with an NPC. It did allow me to dodge their attacks just fine, so I think these values are good. They're fine values. So in my opinion, we're pretty good there. Now, obviously, we need to see what this would look like focused as well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add a simple character. There we go. It's going to be placed here. This character is going to have the tag of enemy. We needed to set that up. That's quite important as well. We'll need the character melee component as well. Needs to have that. We can add some reactions to it, so it actually does something when we hit it. I think that's pretty cool. So we can just drag in the default ones we have for our Sword 1 locomotion. There we go. So Sword 1, sorry. So we have some reactions. Looks nice if we actually do that. So yeah, pretty cool. It has the tag enemy, so we can see if we're actually focused on it. I'm not sure if it actually does hit yeah, it does hit animations. Okay, that's nice. So right now, if I press middle mouse, it's going to target, which is pretty cool. There we go. It will let go, and then it will automatically target. Now, that's one of the things that always did quite annoy me a bit, because, we're not even seeing him, and how can we know that we can target on him? And I personally didn't really like that. So we're adding one other, condition here. So we're going to go to targeting, and again, this is another custom condition. So if he's not focused, and that condition we actually need to put on our NPC. So let's add a trigger. on start conditions, and this is a custom one, and I can't remember where it was actually put. So render visible. There we go. So basically what this does, it's a custom condition created by the creator of Game Creator himself. And basically if the invoker, so in this case our character, is not visible on screen, something will happen. And this means renders. So that literally means if the camera cannot see him, then we can have some input. If the camera can see him, then we can have some things as well. Really, really useful condition. It saves a lot of alternative workarounds. So what we're going to do here is tag. So change tag of, I think we can just do invoker. I don't know, we can do untagged. And we can do enemy. So if he is visible, then enemy. And then we'll do call conditions, which basically, is the same as, which basically is the same as doing a restart. So technically this should be working. Let's have a look. So he is visible on screen, and now he's not. Okay, so that's not working. I'm going to add some actions, remove these conditions. This will be call conditions. There we go. And then restart. And we can remove this, and for some reason these disappear, and that's okay. Then we'll need to do game object character, game object character. Can we rename the character to dummy? There we go. Render visible. Again, drag in the dummy. So if he's not visible, he should be untagged. If he is visible, it should be dummy. Cool. So in order for this to work, I changed it around, and we need to make sure that we basically have a different type of tag. So I'm adding just NPC here instead of enemy, and then if we're not visible to the camera, it's going to be NPC. Using untag doesn't work, so yeah. Then we call those conditions, and we're done. Now, the reason why I prefer doing it like this is basically, right now we're focusing, that makes a lot of sense. It's cool and all that, and we're close. But if we can't see him, then we shouldn't focus. Basically, we shouldn't be able to focus on him. So the dummy is right now, he's enemy. Now he's NPC, and we're actually still focusing on him. So that's actually a small mistake. That is interesting, because we shouldn't be focusing on him at all if he's a different tag. So let me have a look at our targeting. So our gather actions. There we go. So we didn't have a restart. Sorry about this. So yeah, I'm going to exit out of. So now we have restart actions. Let's make sure this is correct as well. So apologies for this. So let me bring up those global variables. So right now we can see him. we have our two targets. So as you can see, now it's going to be empty because we can't see him anymore. And when we press the middle button, it's just going to focus, refocus, and that's it. So it's not going to focus on the actual NPC. And, it's something I personally prefer, because if we can't see him, I think it's weird if we're able to focus on him. It's not a top-down game, so in third person, I just don't think it makes a lot of sense. I'll be honest, there is a small moment where basically, he'll just won't be visible and we'll still be able to focus on him with the camera, as you can see. So there's a small cutoff, but it's really small and it doesn't bother me that much. And it's a better way because if we can't see anyone, I don't want to be able to focus on him. And when I mean we can't see it, it means the camera can't see him. So it has nothing to do with behavior or player visibility. It's simply if we can't see him in the sense of the camera can't see him. Obviously, if the distance is too great, so let's run away a bit. I don't know if this is 10 meters. I have no clue. This is pretty far. Yeah, and we're not focusing on him either. We're just refocusing because we can't gather that tag. And that's a nice thing with the gather tag. So if there's no tag to gather, it will just put in an empty state, which is the best thing. So as you can see, it's not even that far. So yeah, pretty cool. Awesome stuff. Cool, so that's it for the combat. Next up in the following video, we're going to be focusing on AI. So we're going to create something more interesting out of this dummy. We'll create a behavior that basically allows for multiple character types, because as you're aware, with Game Creator 1, you can't duplicate a behavior. So in order to avoid a lot of unnecessary replication work, we're going to make our behavior graph quite interesting and a lot more flexible. And it will allow you to branch out a lot easier as well if you end up creating 10 different character types, all doing that with just the one behavior. Obviously won't work for bosses, those will need their own behavior, but that's something we'll do after. So yeah, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one.